In this lesson, we'll learn about the most important tool for creating and modifying our vector graphics inside of Illustrator, the Pen tool. Okay, so in the last lesson, we learned about a number of the really great tools that Illustrator offers for creating vector artwork over here in the tool panel. Now, there's one tool left, and in my opinion, it's probably the most powerful tool in Illustrator's bucket of tools. It's called the Pen tool. Now, while this is an extremely powerful tool, it's also one of the most difficult tools to master, really using it effectively. So this tool is right over here. It looks like kind of an old-style pen, quill pen. So let me go ahead and grab that here. The keyboard shortcut for this tool is P. Now, anytime I'm drawing with the Pen tool here in Illustrator, I always choose the Direct Selection tool before the Pen tool. So I could quickly hit A and then P on my keyboard. And what that's going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to hit the Control key on my keyboard and temporarily switch over to the Direct Selection tool. If we don't do that, then by hitting Control, we're actually going to switch over to the Normal Selection tool, and we're not going to be able to modify individual anchor points. So with that said, let's go ahead and look at the Pen tool and see how this works. We're just going to draw here on an empty artboard. So I'm going to simply click and dot out a path here. Now, this path has the default color scheme applied to it as far as the color attributes. You can see here white fill and black stroke. And all I'm doing here is I'm simply clicking. Now, whenever we want to close a path that we're drawing with the Pen tool, we always need to return back over here to the anchor point that we started that path with. Now, if I mouse over that, you'll see here that there's a little circle that comes up next to the Pen tool, and all we need to do to close this path is click on that original anchor point. Now, in drawing this path, we could always hold down the Control key and modify the position of any one of these anchor points. But this is a really simple geometric type path. As a matter of fact, every one of these anchor points is a corner. These aren't smooth. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm just going to go ahead and just marquee selection around all that and delete it, because that's a really simple path to draw. Now, the real complexity with the Pen tool comes when you're trying to create smooth and a mixture of smooth anchors and corner anchor points throughout your path. So let's go ahead and draw a path now, and we're going to learn how to create our smooth anchor points. So when clicking on our artboard here, all we need to do is click and drag. And as I drag, before I release my stylus, or if you're using a mouse, your left mouse button, before I release that button, the control handles are completely under my control. I'm pulling them out from that anchor point. Now remember, the control handles completely dictate the direction of the path as it flows through that anchor point. So if I come over here and click again and drag, you can see that my path is being controlled by where I drag those handles to. So I could bring them down like so. If we wanted to, let's come over here and drag another one out over here. And you can really see the effect of these control handles. If you get too far, you're going to go out off the artboard like I just did, but I'll just release one right there. Let's go ahead and bring one around over here. And the same thing goes. If we want to close this path off, we're going to come over here and click again on the anchor point that we started with. Now, after I've done that here, you can see that we have a number of different control handles visible. And again, we could always hold down the Control key and modify location of anchor points, as well as the control handles as well here, if you needed to smooth this out. Now, you'll notice here that this particular anchor point has only one control handle coming out of it. We're missing one of the control handles. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and, without switching off of our Pen tool here, let's hold down the Alt button instead of the Control button. And you'll notice a familiar tool comes up. If you don't remember what this cursor is for, this is the Convert Anchor Point tool. And this is going to allow us to redraw those control handles. So we have got one right now. If I just simply click on that anchor point and drag, you can see that I can pull those out again. So if we wanted that second anchor point, all we need to do is hold down the Alt key and drag that out. Now again, the path that we've created here is one that has really all smooth anchor points. You can see here that none of these control handles are split and broken. They're all running in the same direction as their partner handle. So now we can actually combine smooth anchor points with corner anchor points seamlessly while we draw a path using the pen tool. So let's come over here. We'll just draw another path. Let me delete that one here. I'm going to go ahead and, since my direct selection tool is active, I'll just hit P on my keyboard. Now as we're drawing, we'll just come in here and we'll draw a couple of smooth anchor points. Now let's say this next anchor point that I draw, I want to come up here, and then I want the path to take a sharp right so that we have a nice solid corner there. Now if we come up and let's say we'll pull out our control handles just like so, and when I get that handle to where I'm happy with it there, get that path aligned up, I'm simply going to hold down the Alt key before I release my mouse button. And what that's going to allow me to do is break that handle free that I just drug out. So now I can reposition that handle maybe over to here. Let me undo that here. We'll just draw that one more time. Hold down the Alt key, and then before I release the Alt key, I'm going to release the left mouse button or my stylus from my tablet. And you can see here that control handle stays. So we can continue drawing our path after drawing that corner anchor point. Now, another important thing to keep in mind when you're using the pen tool is that as you're pulling out these control handles, we can actually hold down that space bar. We did this earlier in this course. We can hold down the space bar and reposition anchor points as we're pulling out their handles. So you can see here, I'm just going to come in and draw a few more of these. We'll just start to reposition these wherever I need them as I'm going along here. Maybe we break that one free. Kind of creating a pattern like so. And we'll come in and close that path off. All right, great. So now this is all well and good. We've been drawing sort of just abstract shapes here, but let's go ahead and use the pen tool with some purpose at this point. So I'm going to come over to my layers panel, and if you're using the same file to draw in that I am, I've been working on this draw here layer. Now I'm going to come over here. This is actually an extra one. We'll just delete that. I'm going to come over here and reveal this layer right here. Now we're going to learn a little bit more about layers in the next lesson, but this is that same logo that we worked on previously. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have my draw here layer selected, but we're going to use this red outlined version of the MoTelevision logo, and we're just going to trace right on top of it. Now tracing objects is probably the easiest way to get used to using the pen tool here in Illustrator, because each object is going to present unique challenges. So let me hit the A key and then the P key. So we're ready to draw. And we'll come in here and let's go ahead and start with something simple. We'll start with a dot in the exclamation point. So I'm going to just come in here, and again I'm going to reposition my anchor points as needed by holding down the space bar. And we're going to come in and just basically trace this circle. Now we do have a white fill applied, so let me come over here really quickly. I'll select the fill by clicking on it, and I'll click that little swatch with the red line through it so we can still see our artwork. Now I'm going to come back and continue drawing my path, and probably a good rule of thumb to keep in mind is as you're drawing shapes, try not to create a lot of extra anchor points. See how many anchor points you can really use to create the shape without just going overboard. Now at this point I need to pull these handles out a little bit further. So I can hold down my control key and maybe just grab that path segment and stretch that out to there. And then we'll come over here, and you can see before I release, as I'm closing this path, I can click and drag, and I'm actually pulling out that other control handle. There we go. So I can come in and I can reposition these as needed. But go ahead at this point and take a look at this logo. Continue creating the shapes that make up this logo here. There's a lot of really nice opportunities to mix in corner anchor points with smooth anchor points. And once you've traced this logo, if you feel like taking on a little bit larger challenge in terms of the pen tool, I've gone ahead and added another logo right over here. It's that same cat logo. Now this would be quite a bit more difficult than the Motelevision logo, but if you feel like you're up for the challenge, this would be some great practice for you in using the pen tool. Now, one last important topic we need to cover before we start to wrap this course up is the stacking order of objects here inside of Illustrator. Because once you begin creating more complex artwork, this stacking order is going to be something that you need to get a firm grasp on. So let's go ahead and learn about that in the next lesson.